All right, welcome again to another broadcast. So glad that you guys are here. Welcome to Sunday School. I figure I'll call it Sunday School because it's Sunday and you got a lot of people that do Sunday school, so why not? We just calling it Sunday School today. It's just some light news, but I said, Sundays will actually probably be a pretty good day to kind of touch on just some of the to have like just these little quick talks where we look at some of these things, these claims that were made in the Bible, and looking at it and holding it against actual history. And again, it's nobody's going to get beat up or anything like that. We're just going to look at the facts, and it's just very light. And that's it. We're just going to look at a couple of things here, and I'll mention something else. And then we're also going to look at IUIC. They have been, ever since AI has come out, wow. I mean, they have been going overdrive with that. So they have an animation, if you will, that they came out with that I found to be quite interesting. And we're going to take a look at it. It's actually pretty short, and we're just going to look at it. And then last, we're also going to talk about this this individual that's been getting a lot of news. She's no longer with us, and that's Nicole Good. This is the young woman who was shot and killed by the ICE officers. And I just got a few questions about that. And, I'm just kind of looking. So anyway, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the broadcast. We're going to give people just a few moments to get on, and then we're going to jump right in and get started. Okay.
Yeah. Take your time with this. Samba tree salsa.
You wanna sip it
Again and again.
yeah.
From the leaf to the bottle, yeah, we slow it down. No rush in the process, we let love come around. Yeah. Sun on the flavor, I'm in the blend. Once you taste something real, you don't play pretend. Ain't no shortcuts, ain't no disguise. You can see it in the color, taste it when you try. Grown folks sip, yeah, it hit just right. Daytime cooler or warm late night. If you know, then you know what I mean. When it's brewed real slow, keep it clean. Let me tell you what it is, my friend. Brewed, not powdered. Fresh, not pretend. Summer tree, sour sop. You wanna sit back again and again. Brewed, not powdered. Fresh, not pretend. Summer tree, sour sop. You wanna sit back again and again. Pop again, again. Pop that cap, hear the sound, let it breathe. Pour it slow, let it cool, yeah, you know what you need. No fake flavors, hiding in the mix, just smooth, real tea. When it touch your lips, everybody asking what's that you got. I say, once you go brewed, you don't go back to not. It ain't a trend, now this a way of life. Simple ingredients, yeah, we keep it right. When it feel that good, you don't gotta explain. Real recognize real every time you pour a glass again. Ooh,
Hey.
not powder, fresh, not pretend. Summer tree, sour sop, you wanna sip it again and again. Yeah, brewed, not powdered, fresh, not pretend. Summer tree, sour sop, you wanna sip it again and again.
Hey, welcome again. So glad to see you guys here. Welcome to another broadcast. Real quick, just want to let you know, number one, that sour sop tea, we brought it back, and we're just gonna have it in different releases. So the January release, if you're trying to get that January release in, you better jump in. This is the last call for the January release for our sour sop tea. It comes to your house cold. If you're outside the state of Arizona, we're gonna make sure we put an ice pack in there to make sure it gets to your house cold. So the sour sop tea, you ain't gonna find it anywhere else. Brewed already for you in a small bottle, in bottles, I should say. So make sure you check that out. Also, same thing, last call for our January shipment of citrus fruit. Make sure you jump on that, y'all. Again, this is, and citrus is, what I mean by that is grapefruit, lemons, oranges. Jump on that and make sure you check that out. Tomorrow, we, my wife and I, we were going to do it today, but we decided to do it tomorrow. Tomorrow, we will be going live outside in the garden. And Nicole, she's got a very exciting announcement that she's going to be making, regarding something she's going to be doing over there. She's going to be doing one-on-one coaching, one-on-one life coaching. And we're very, very excited about that. So if you're on our mailing list, I think she just gave a little taste of it. But but tomorrow we'll get more into it. Again, we'll be going live in the garden tomorrow, because tomorrow's MLK Day. A lot of people have today or tomorrow off, so we figured we'll just push it off until tomorrow. And very excited about that. So if you're someone looking for some trusted people that, and you'll be mainly working with her, when it comes to coaching, just kind of getting your life situation in order. Many of you have been traveling on this road with us for a number of years, and this will be a great opportunity for you. So make sure you check that out. She'll be getting more into that tomorrow. I believe we're going to be broadcasting over on the Saba Tree YouTube page, not here, but on the Saba Tree YouTube page. So make sure you keep a lookout for that. Okay. All right. I think that's it. Make sure, as always, make sure you check out our website, sabatree.com, for herbs, for natural medicines, for natural body creams and oil, everything 100% natural. If we're not using it in our house, then we're not going to try to sell it to you, because it's got to pass our in-house test first before we're passing it on to our other friends and family members. So make sure, again, you check that out over on sabatree.com. All right. So we are all here, and I hope you guys had having a great weekend. I don't want to end it too soon. I mean, let this tape play out. You know what I mean? I ain't trying to end it. So I know if you're on the East Coast, the time right now, the time of me broadcasting this, it's about close to 6:00 p.m. So we still got a lot of time in this weekend. We're going to run this clock all the way out. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, but I do hope you guys had a great weekend out here in Arizona. We've been averaging a little bit over 70 degrees. So it's been quite nice out here. We've been having some very good weather. And I'm going to ask you the question I've always asking you is what's the question I always ask? Are you doing your breathing exercises? Make sure you're doing that, John. There's no cost to it. It's free. It helps to kind of set things in order. Let me kind of give you a reminder or something. Hey, we got our dear sister that's in the house. She said, hey, it's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. So good to see you here. Welcome back, and good to have you and anybody else that's here too. Do you guys have, and this is the whole breathing exercise thing, and then we're going to get into the main stuff here. When you wake up, let me speak on me. Okay, how about that? Let me talk about myself here. When I wake up, what typically happens is, and it can be a good night's sleep or whatever, it doesn't matter. I am immediately faced with all the things I am quote unquote supposed to be worrying about. Okay. And depending on the load, it can be something very like, whatever, to like you wake up and there's like low key anxiety that I wake up to. And it doesn't matter if I go to sleep, I had a great night's sleep or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I did breathing exercises before I went to bed the night before. There's always like this, waiting for me to wake up. And sometimes I don't even want to open my eyes because it's like, okay, today I got to do this or whatever. And after a while, I was like, okay, is this normal? Because I shouldn't be waking up and already dealing with low key anxiety about stuff. But I looked into it and it was, no, it actually is kind of normal. Because what happens is the way our body works, our brain works, is that it's kind of like when you're turning on a computer. And when you first turn on the computer, it does what? It does like a self-test. And it's doing the self-test, is looking at, okay, what are all the things that are priority that you need to be focused on right now, because these things are pressing. We got to make sure we take care of this first, okay? So like in the case of you turning on your computer, is looking at all the basic things. Okay, is there a hard drive issue here? Okay, is the memory, is the board all right? Or, is the memory, are you having memory issues and all of that, right? And, most of us, we just turn our computer on and just assume that it's going to come on, right? But your computer is literally going through this series of self-tests, just checking the basic things and make sure that everything is, is doing what it's supposed to do. And likewise, our bodies, our brains are no different. When we wake up, when we're coming out of sleep, your brain actually functions the same way. It's actually doing this self-test, if you will. And anything that was unresolved from the day before or anything or the days before that, your brain is going to prioritize those things. And it's going to say, okay, here's some things you need to be worrying about. Here's some things, I don't know. Are you going to be able to do it? You remember this? You didn't solve that situation. And so your body normally does that. This is a normal function of your body. And again, it depends on, the individual. Some individuals, you really don't have a whole lot going on in your life, so there ain't really a whole lot for you to worry about or be concerned about. But if you're someone that's doing a lot, that means there's going to be some things that are okay, that are settled, and it means that there's going to be some other things that aren't. And so your body normally, your brain is going to normally push those things to the front as soon as you are fully awake. And so what happens? If you allow it, it will set the tone for the rest of your day. So this is where breathing exercises come in, because as that low-key anxiety is building up and it's becoming something more than that, it's going past just being low-key, it literally will set the tone for the rest of your day. So what do you need to do? What's the thing you should be doing? Well, breathing exercise is a very good thing to do, exercise to do, because what it does, you're basically telling your nervous system and it's telling your brain, okay, we know all of that. All right, but let's chill. Let's bring this all the way to ground zero. It's like, it was one of the Indiana Jones films. He just finished teaching class. He goes right to his office. As soon as he gets to his office, it's like a huge crowd of kids, and they all waving their test scores and their papers and all that. They're like, well, Dr. Jones, I got this question. He's like, all right, hold on. Get in line, and let me get in the office first. Let me get myself together, and then I'm going to let y'all in one by one. Well, that's how you're supposed to start your day. Not just having everybody rush into your brain all at the same time. You know what I'm saying? And so what breathing exercises do is it helps you to bring everything back in order. And because if you don't do this, what happens is your whole day, pretty much, you're running to try to hit these priorities that a lot of times you may not be able to hit, because some of the things it may take a few days or whatever to solve it. But here comes your body, and your brain is constantly pushing this in front of you, trying to get you to prioritize this. Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's why we stress the importance of doing breathing exercises and at least starting your day with it. So if you're not doing that, make sure you're doing that. Okay. Just a little FYI help. Okay, so it's Sunday, so I figure I'd just offer that to you. Okay, so the next thing is, let's get into this Today I saw something. I was on social media, and someone had mentioned, they said, they were talking about the rainbow, and they were saying that, the rainbow is God's sign of covenant with man. And, before, when I was in Christendom, I would see that and be like, yeah, that's what it is. That's what it means, right? But notice what I just said. When I was in Christendom, Christendom is a construct. It is basically its own world. In fact, any Bible-based belief system, it is all centered around its own construct. The world we live in, for example, is its own construct. When we look at trees, when we look at nature and different parts of nature, do you think they really care? When's the last time when you went to go vote, if you do vote, you saw a bunch of trees standing in line to cast a ballot? How about a bunch of rocks? How about birds or animals? Do you think they participate in that? Do you think they participate, let's say, in your holidays and have these long discussions and debates about holidays and what holidays we're supposed to celebrate and all of that? Do you think they get caught up in that? No. Trees have been around as long as mankind has been around. And yet they have still been able to exist because they're plugged into nature. They're part of nature. Their mindset, if you will, their existence basically is beyond the construct. They don't care if Trump is in office. They don't care about the issue of abortion. They don't care about LGBT. They don't concern themselves with any of that. They just exist. And not only do they just exist, they thrive and they grow. And this is how we're supposed to be. This is actually how we're supposed to live, just like that, where it doesn't matter what's going on. You're not living in you may be existing in their time frame, in their construct, but you're not guided by it, if you will. Do you understand what I'm saying? So getting back to this whole issue about the rainbow, the biblical definition of it is basically, this was the covenant that God gave to Noah, and which was really to mankind in general. And this was God saying, hey, listen, never again will you see me destroy the earth by water. Well, I hate to break it to you, but there hasn't been any worldwide floods, right? But since the biblical account, but there have been many floods that have taken place over the years where we can probably say, if the Noah story was actually true and it did happen, I think we can safely say probably over 1 million people have died due to floods, at least 1 million people, if not more. So much for that. I'm not going to flood the whole earth, but I'll just flood pockets of it. I mean, that doesn't even make any sense, does it? But in the construct, it does. It makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, think about that for a second. He's saying that he's not going to flood the whole earth. That's what it says, right? He's not going to flood the whole earth. But there have been floods where people have actually died. Maybe I got to, that's why I said maybe I got to slow walk this, because when you're in that construct, that makes total sense to you. He said, I'm not going to flood the whole earth, but there's pockets all over the world where we can point to where flooding did take place and many people died. But I thought he promised that he wasn't going to, but in your mind, when you're in that construct, you will tell yourself, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but it wasn't the whole earth that was flooded. And we legitimize it. We make it make sense. So anyway, very quickly, I wanted to bring up this. This is something I actually posted over today over on our community page, over on our long form history channel. And I'll just bring it up on the screen here. And let's just take a look at it. Let's just take a look. And we're gonna it's right there, and here we go. I was actually responding to someone on social media, and that's why I brought this up. But let me give you just this. This is just some examples here of, not flood stories, stories that predate the Bible, religious stories, I should say, that predate the Bible, that center around the rainbow. Okay. So anyway, so let me just read this here. So Mesopotamian, Sumerian, Elamite, Babylonian traditions, the goddess Manzat, also called Tirana, meaning rainbow or bow of heaven, was a personification of the rainbow itself. She represented the rainbow as a divine entity, sometimes tied to prosperities of cities. This dates back to at least the third period, or 2100 to 2000 BCE, and earlier attestations in Elamite context, well before the composition of Genesis. In some Mesopotamian astronomical omen texts, rainbows were celestial signs or omens interpreted by direction or context, similar to how stars were heavenly writing from the gods, though not specifically a post-flood covenant. So in the Mesopotamian world, in their construct, this is how they interpreted the rainbow. Remember, this took place way before people were even thinking about the Bible. Okay? Ancient Hindu Vedic traditions. And they said in the Rig Veda, composed 1500 to 1200 BCE or earlier oral traditions, the rainbow is called, I'm not going to even try to say that. Well, let me always challenge myself. Indra Hanush. There you go. Bow of Indra. Indra, the god of thunder, rain, war, and the king of gods, uses the rainbow as his bow to shoot lightning arrows against the demon Vitra to release waters of rain. It functions as a divine weapon and symbol of his power, protection, clearly a sign of godly action in the sky. Remember, again, I have to keep reminding you, this was before the Bible was even written. And then we'll just hit this last one. Sumerian mythology, the farmer, warrior god Ninurta, associated with agriculture, storms, and defense of summer, is described as wearing a crown of rainbow or wielding a bow and arrow set where the rainbow element appears symbolically. This ties the rainbow to divine martial, divine protective order. And then there's other examples as well. Other examples as well of the rainbow and that predated the Bible, where a god or some deity was tied to it. So in Christendom, here comes the Bible and all of that. Then just like the Mesopotamian, they had their own construct that they lived in, right? The Sumerians, they had their own bubble world that they lived in. I want you to start realizing that the world that we live in today, the bubble is centered on Judaism. Okay? So is in this world, in this bubble that we live in today, everything is centered around what comes out of the belief system of Judaism. Okay? And so what comes out of Judaism? Well, the Bible comes out of that. And you'll have Christians, I know, that will go back and forth with me on that the Bible doesn't have anything to do with Judaism, but the centerpiece of Judaism is what? The Torah. Okay? And the Torah is literally the first half of the Bible. So you can't even out argue that one. So this, what we call the Bible, is centered on Judaism, and Judaism is the centerpiece really of this construct, this world that we live in. And I will even go further, and someone may say, well, what about Islam? You know, Islam isn't Judaism. Well, Islam is one of the three Abrahamic religions. Abraham really is the centerpiece of which religion? Well, Judaism. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, depending on which historian you talk to, they will even tell you that Islam basically came out of Judaism. That's a whole nother conversation, and it's a quite big one. But there are enough, how can I say, evidence to show that that's actually true. So this construct, this bubble that we live in, is rooted on that. So when people say, like, for example, when they mention the rainbow, like we're talking about now, and they say, they'll say, well, God says this, God says that, that the rainbow is a sign of his covenant. You're stating it as a statement of fact. Well, as long as you're in the bubble, it is, right? But outside of the bubble, it's not. Well, let me put it to you another way. Let me give you another example. In Ethiopia, you know what the year is in Ethiopia? Let me give you a hint. It's not 2026. In Ethiopia, the year is 2018. It's 2018. They're on a whole different calendar system than we are in the rest of the world. So right now, as we are speaking right now, they are functioning as in 2018. Now, you and I who don't live in Ethiopia, well, I'm sure maybe I got a few people in Ethiopia that watch me. I don't know. Those of us that are external outside of Ethiopia, we'll look at them and be like, they are so out of date. They are so behind. See, this is Africa. They're always behind everything or whatever. But no, that's their culture. That's how they operate. Their calendar is their calendar. And so for them, it's 2018. They're not, rest of the world is operating in 2026. Now, does that necessarily mean that they're behind and we're ahead? Not necessarily. It's just their construct. See, I want you to start looking at existence, right? Time and all of that. Time is just simply a measurement. But think about this. Think about, you just have this string of balls, like ornaments, like on a Christmas tree, for example, right? And this long string is just mere existence, right? And it just goes as far back as however far as you can see, and it goes as far ahead as far as you can see. And each one of these balls, they represent its own construct. Well, that's kind of how we are. So in this world, in this construct that we live in, there is a such thing as a chosen people, right? There is a such thing as, music genres. There's a such thing as, clothing styles or, food styles or whatever. That's in this construct, right? But if I was to break out of the construct, come out of this, you're going to see that the world is a much bigger place than that. This existence that we're in is a much bigger thing. There's no way you can fit. If you can fit all of existence in a book, you're thinking too small. I don't care if it's a Bible or not. It doesn't matter. You are thinking too small if you think you can encompass all of this within the pages of a book. You can't do it. It's impossible. But the construct tells you that you can do it. And that's why many of us have just bought into that. We think that the whole explanation of everything can fit within the pages of a book. And we've told ourselves this. So when you break out of it, it is very jarring for, I don't know anybody that's not. I mean, when you break free out of religion, when you say to yourself, listen, I'm done with that at all. I'm done. I'm not following that no more. I'm just completely done with it. And you're not shopping around for the next religion or the next God. Instead, you are just saying, you know what? I'm going to take a pause on that. I am not saying there is no singular God out there. I'm just going to take a pause on that right now. I do recognize and understand that when I'm looking at this nature that's around us, that yes, there is an intelligent design behind that. And no, I would be foolish to think that somehow some explosion took place and everything just fell into place like this. I don't believe that. Personally, I don't. I believe that there is an intelligent, I know that there is an intelligence that is in everything we see when it comes to nature. I don't think we just kind of would drift in and all of a sudden decide to come into place. When you look at how the human body is constructed, there is clearly some intelligence behind that. And so these are the bigger things that I try to get our viewers to really start thinking about and all of that. And because when you think this way, you'll never get into a debate or argument with people. I mean, I'm talking about a lot of these podcasters, these people that got platforms and stuff. Nobody gonna want to debate you. As long as but if you're within their book, if you tie yourself within their construct, they'll find all kind of ways, because they'll find any new way they can think of to kind of come up with a new scripture to say how you're wrong. And then you look in the same book and you find the same scripture and say how they're wrong. And then it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Nobody's going any further than the construct. You're still in the bubble. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I want you to think of this existence that we're in right now. It's not just this simple little ball here. And that's why I wanted to use this, what you call the rainbow story as an example. Because, the rainbow story, it did happen where God gave a covenant. Yes, within this construct. Within this construct, a belief system was created where they believe that that's what happened. And so in your mind, you believe that. I was part of that. I preached that. I taught that. I shared that with my children. But once you break out of it and you realize, oh my goodness, no, this is something that was man-made. And not only was it man-made, they copied off of other people. This ain't the original. There's other people that had their own stories about the rainbow that predated the Bible. So I know for some people it's difficult. It's a hard hill to climb when you start thinking this way. And for some people it's very difficult because the idea of letting go of the handrails, it's a hard thing, because what do you normally think? You're going to fall. Who's going to catch you? Are you putting yourself in danger? Are you putting yourself at risk and all that? You're going to think all kinds of stuff. I get it. I understand. I know. But what I am saying is, it's when we die, I think all of us are going to be quite shocked. If you think for one moment it's just, we're just going to be in heaven and just playing a harp and being on the choir and all of that, or, the bad people, they're going to go to hell, and we just think of that. And then when you read about how did we come up with this whole concept of hell in the first place? Well, it came from, and then we did a whole video on that. They made it up. They had to put together something to keep people scared so that they could stay in the church. If you do this, you're going to go to hell. And the very people that preach that are doing everything imaginable to get their behinds in hell. There are some things I will sit up here and tell you, I don't have the answer to everything. I don't. Well, can you tell me, with just look at me in my eye and tell me exactly what happens once we die? No, I'm not going to tell you. Now, there are people out here on YouTube and other platforms that will tell you they had these afterlife experiences and all of that. You take it for what you take it for. The range is all over the place. Like the Christians will tell you, I know Christians that died and they first thing they saw Jesus, or they were in heaven or whatever, right? Okay, well, that's what they said. I'm not saying they're lying. That's your experience. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Then you got other people. You got Muslims that say they died and they saw Allah. So are we going to say they're lying too? Then you got people who don't believe in anything like that, and they said they saw bright light and all of this stuff. So I'm not going to put myself in a position to talk about a place I've never been. But what I can tell you is this, is that there is a lot that we can all learn by simply looking at nature. And when we look at nature, we see that nature has this existence where it just, regardless of what's happening, it lives, it may exist in the construct, but it's not ruled by it. You know what I'm saying? Trees have been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and they still existing. They don't care who's the president. They don't care if you go to church, or they don't pay tithes and offerings. They don't do any of the sort, but they still exist and they still thrive. And that's how our lives should be, you know? And anyway, so let me look at some of your comments here, and then we move on to the next one. Let's see. I'm always scared. I mean, because right next, when I bring your comments up, there's a ban button. Like if I get somebody in the comment section saying something crazy, I can ban you. And so I have to be very careful, because if that, and I'm just saying that if that happens, I 1,000 times apologize. Just email me and I won't, I'll unban you. But it's not my intention at all. Anyway, Marcia, she said, religion is very limited in scope. It stops people from thinking outside the pages of a book purely out of fear. It's okay not to know everything. It's right. That's true. It's okay not to know everything, and be straight up and say, I don't know. You know what I mean? Here's someone else here. I skipped this person. This is a Miss Big Up. Exactly, Dwayne. I could never accept that every could possibly be in the pages of, everything could be possibly in the pages of the book, the Bible. It's impossible. Everything, especially when you consider the fact that the Bible itself, it excluded us. It black folks, it excluded us. Now, there are black people out there like myself. At one time, I was sitting up here saying, yeah, this is our history book. Now, I'm not going to say that there aren't any African influences in the Bible, because, there's some things in there. But these people, like I told you, when you look at the scripture, when it says, for God so loved the world, according to the people who wrote this Bible, they were not thinking about Central, Southern Africa, West Africa, because in their minds, those places never existed. They weren't thinking about what we call today America. They weren't thinking about what we call today South America, or the Pacific Islands and all of that stuff, because in their world, none of that even existed. So when they say the world, they were referring to Mesopotamia, the Levant, and China, some of those other areas that were known to them. You know what I mean? And as far as they know, that's all it was to it. But everything else, it was just non-existent. So everything you read in the Bible, it's just referring to their culture and their belief systems. That's why when they went to our lands where we were, they had to bring the gun, because they knew we weren't going to believe it. You know what I mean? We were like, what? A human sacrifice? But you calling our stuff witchcraft, but I got to drink the blood and eat the flesh? Well, that sounds like what we're doing. No, you're the witches. It's like, okay, all right. And so, that's why they had to bring the gun, because they knew we weren't going to believe it. But, there you go. Anyway, move on. Let's see. Impossible for everything. Yep. And here's Todd. He said, I guess it begs the question how DNA contains instructions to establish carbon-based life, or is there a greater quantum reality in play? Yeah, I think there's something much greater in play there, because, Todd, the other day, it was funny. If I could find it, I would maybe play it. But I was watching this video, and they said scientists for the first time was able to capture this. The moment, I think it was, the heartbeat. That's what it was. The very first heartbeat, they said they was able to capture it. And these days you can't tell if it's AI or whatever, but they literally showed, like, you see I guess they sped it up, right? But they showed like the cells coming together and all of that. And as soon as they were coming together, then you saw they all got on cue, and they just start like emitting light. It's really, really fascinating. And then from there, over time, it developed the heart, and then other things start developing and all of that. But this happens every day. It's really fascinating, isn't it, when you think about it? So for me to sit up here and think that, it was just a bunch of rocks that collided into each other, and then all of a sudden everything just fell in place. We don't see that in nature. Everything in nature, there's an order to it, everything. And my goal in life is to get to that place where I'm living like that, where I'm still in existence. I can't disappear as much as I may want to, but I may be in existence here, like physically, right? But at the same time, this construct doesn't define who I am. That's where I'm trying to get to. Anyway, let's move on. Someone else said, since leaving religion, my mind has the ability to understand much more than ever before. Wow, it is. And that's something. It said, true, nature speaks louder than words. It does. It does. Anyway, let's move on. Here's another thing here I wanted to show y'all. This was a video. Let's see. I'll pull this up here. This is from Nathaniel, the Bishop Nathaniel, and of IUIC. I want to play this video clip. Like I told you, they're really into the AI thing, and they put out some interesting things, to say the least. But I do want to show you this one that they put out here. Let me pull this up here, rewind that, and let's go here. Okay. All right, let's pull that up. There you go. All right, let me turn this up. You see, it's a very short video, so let's take a look at it. It's well done, by the way.
Servants, obey in all things your masters according to the flesh.
Obey your Lord and Savior Christ. We must serve our Lord and Savior. Amen.
We have the most powerful, most lethal, most sophisticated, and most fearsome.
I pray you make a way. They say that time changed, my life's still the same.
Stop resisting!
Very hopeful video. Inspires a lot of hope for us there, right? Anyway, yeah, that's the video they put out there, and I thought it was quite interesting. But I wanted to point out something here, a little thing that I was like, okay. Let's see, screenshot. Okay, let me bring this up here on the screen here. Okay, so you saw, I thought, like I said, again, it was actually well done. I give him that, for real. It was actually a pretty well done video. So they put together, so you see the transition. It starts off with the white preacher, teaching, and he's telling them, obey your masters or whatever. And then you see the white preacher, he flashes, and then he turns into a black preacher, and then you see the black people reading out of the Bible and all of that. And then, then it gets into showing Hiroshima and all. I don't know what that jump was. That was, I don't know. I don't know what that jump was about. But anyway, what's the common thread with this thing? What's the common thread? Well, the common thread is all of them are teaching out of the same book. All of them are teaching out of the same book. So the white man, he's teaching out of the Bible. The black preacher, he's teaching out of the Bible too. IUIC is doing the same thing. They're teaching out. All three of them are teaching out of the same book. So how is that even progress? How is it progress that they're all teaching out of the same book? What are you offering that's different from this construct? Nothing. They're not offering anything. That's why they showed all the death and destruction and the bombs and all that stuff. That's what they're offering. And many of you know that, it's not just IUIC, but, when we talk about Hebrew Israelites, that's what they do all the time. It's just the highlight. If you want to get a lot of clicks, talk about amongst religious folks, constantly remind them that that one day there's going to be this massive amount of death and destruction that's going to take place, but by the grace of God, don't worry about it. There's going to be salvation, because it legitimizes their construct. It keeps people in the perpetual state of, let me smoke that construct pack. You got to do this, right? Hold on, you got. Yeah, man, we got. Let me smoke another one of those construct packs. Yeah. Oh yeah, the destruction is coming, man. I'm telling you, Most High, he gonna come. He gonna blow this place up, man. Yeah, all praises, man. All praises to the Most High, man. He gonna blow this place up. It makes you feel good, don't it? It makes you feel good. But there's stuff happening all the time. Now, let me say this. This construct that because it's rooted in Judaism, why do you think we've been spending so much time talking about Judaism? Well, because in Judaism, they do want that. So you can, if you're a Hebrew Israelite, you can all you want say that you're not them, but in Judaism, they actually teach the same message as these Negroes are in IUIC and Hebrew Israelites and Christians for that matter. They all preach the same message, that there's going to be worldwide death and destruction, but don't worry about it, because God is going to come in the sky and he's going to snatch everybody up. That is the construct talking to you. But again, if I was to go to remember I talked about the ball thing I was telling you about, Zoroastrianism during that whole era, going all the way back, right? They didn't have such beliefs like that. I mean, there was some variations of it, but their beliefs are a little bit different. Then you go to some of the earlier predate to the Bible. They had their own belief systems. If you go to Africa, because Africa always is left out of the equation, right? Anytime you want to talk about ancient African history, they always refer to it as prehistoric. See, don't fall for that nonsense. They always say prehistoric when they talk about ancient African history. But when you look at African belief systems, they believe things is circular, right? You live and then you die and then it's afterlife and then it regenerates or whatever. And their whole cosmology and belief system is different than a lot of these other people. It's the Europeans that came in, was like, once you die, you're going to burn in hell if you don't continue to kiss the ring of the child abusing pastor. It's crazy. You understand? So just know that even when we talk about African spirituality, that's their own, that's its own construct. Even that's their own belief system. You got people who stuck on that. They just stay in that world of, their construct that their gods are there to protect them and all of that. And it's funny that their gods have all this power to cast curses on other Africans, but you take some wimpy little soldier coming in from Denmark, with a gun, put him up. All of a sudden their God like, oh my God, the water spirits and all that, they can't do anything. All them water spirits and all them sacrifices and them videos you put out on YouTube where they show, look at the African, the Baba elder, he's floating in the air. But somehow one little Bill Gates come in there and say, you know what? I want to give y'all some money to basically inject your own children. And the gods are like, hey, why not? I ain't doing nothing. You want some? Anyway, it's just really something anyway. Let me share this with you real quick here. Where's my thing here? Hold on. This is just a reminder. We had the class is still available. The Breaking the Chains class that we have here. Let me see where did I put it? Okay, here we go. Maybe it's here. Okay. Yeah, this is it. The Breaking the Chains class that we have. Making sure that you guys are aware of this. We, and it's available right now over on Sabatree. If you go to Saba University, you can get the book by itself. I don't have the prices in front of me, but just go to Saba University and check it out. And you can get the book by itself, or you can get the book and the class. And then I think I still have all the slides. It's like, man, I don't know how many slides. I got a lot of slides on there. But anyway, the Breaking the Chains thing right here, if you check it out, here's some of the things we talk about. This book is almost 100 pages, I think. And I'll just go over the outlines real quick. The pillars of biblical belief, myths and history, the Sumerian creation story, the Akkadian, the Babylonian, the Hebrew creation story, and all of that. Then we talk about the Great Flood narratives. Then we talk of patriarchal narratives, Abraham, and the influences behind the Abraham story, Moses and Exodus, history, myth, and imperial context. Then we go to the Ark of the Covenant. I tell you about the origins of the Ark of the Covenant. No, that wasn't the only ark in history. But if you know anything about Egypt history, we walk you through that. You don't have to be an Egyptologist, but I give you plenty of examples where in Egypt, at least, you'll find many examples where they had their own arks. So you're telling me that the Bible God, he couldn't be unique enough to create his own thing. He had to borrow from Egypt to create his own ark. So we talk about the arks that predated the Ark of the Covenant, and how even the contents of the ark were very similar to the arks that predated it. We take a strong look at Deuteronomy 28, the claims that are out there, and then we look at the actual framework of it, looking at history, right? The evolution of redemption, the story of Jesus, we talk about that, the ancient roots, and reimagine redemption. Paul the Apostle, we look at that, and the book of Revelation, and then some other things too. Western spirituality's impact on Black identity. We talk about that, the roots of Western spirituality. And then chapter 11, restoring the mind, how belief systems affect the brain and mental health. So we go through the history part, but then we also look at it from a medical, biological, we look at it from the mental health as well, and we walk you through and we show you how religion, the impact it literally has on your brain, and how it takes advantage of your trauma and all that other stuff. And then we have a whole section called how to deconstruct safely. So yeah, I mean, if we got you covered here. Again, this is the PDF. and it's available over on our Samba Tree page. If you go to Samba University section, it's there, and you get it. It's nothing I have to ship. You just get it instantaneously once you of course pay for it, and you could do that. But if you want to do the whole class experience where it's the video and you just sitting down and you're all going through it, we got that too. All right, so you can get all of that, and it all comes included. And I got like a ton of slides that we have as well. So you get all of that. So you'll be more than set, in exploring these things and helping you to ask the right questions, right? And then whatever you decide at the end of it, it's not even a call for you to make a decision like come to Jesus or you're going to go to hell, or if you leave Jesus, then you're not, whatever. Nobody's doing that. It's just information. Take it or leave it. So it's there, it's available. You can check that out. Again, that's at sambatree.com. Let's talk about this last topic here. This whole Nicole Good story. Let's jump into the news right quick. That I find to be very, very interesting. Let me see if I can pull this article up here and just kind of everybody, we get on the same page here about this story. Just a moment here. All right, here it is. Anyway, this is the young lady that found herself catching a few bullets, at the, in Minnesota, you had the whole ICE thing going on right now where they really are cracking down on that community of Somalian people. And it's quite interesting that all up prior to this woman being killed, it's quite interesting that all the attention was on the Somalian people and the gross amount of illegal, the fraud and stuff that they was doing these daycare stuff. By the way, you remember my response to that when that news first was coming out? My response to that was to, I said, okay, that's wrong. And if it's fraud and it's proven that it is fraud, it definitely needs to be punished. That was my whole take on it. I said, but there's other communities that have practiced in gross amounts of fraud as well. And I was mainly talking about the Jewish community. And I did a whole video where I actually meticulously went through all these different examples over the years. What's funny, because a few days ago, somebody actually came out with a documentary talking about this. And it was, I don't know if you guys have seen it. I haven't seen the full documentary yet, but I definitely plan on to. But let me pull up, because I just thought about that. I was like, shoot, I should just show them that. Someone did an excerpt on this. Let's see. We could show you that. That's like 2 minutes long here. Yeah, that full one is, okay, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. I'll show you this one. That way you'll see the, like I said, again, it's the full documentary is like 40 minutes long, but I'll just show you this one here. But anyway, someone, they went in there and they said, well, let's take a look at it. Now we're going to talk. If we're going to have that conversation, let's have that conversation. And they did. Hold on. Why is this thing not showing up? Okay, hold on. Oh, it's right here. Sorry, it was literally right in my face. All right, take a look at this. This is like 2 minutes long, a little over 2 minutes. Check this out.
This is Curious Joel, a village of 44,000 Hasidic Jews in upstate New York that primarily speak Yiddish, have an average of 7 kids per family, rely heavily on state assistance and welfare programs like Medicare, SNAP, housing assistance, and tax credits from their many kids. How many kids do most people have out here?
17, 18.
How do they afford 17, 18 kids?
They are proud to do what the Torah says, that you need to be multiple and fruitful.
Wow. How do people afford to have like 10 kids out here?
The community is based on this. So
Is it wealthy members of the community give charity?
yes, mostly.
I don't talk to suspicious person.
How am I suspicious? Do you study Torah?
You work for Hamas?
What do you do for work?
Nothing.
How do you make money?
A wife.
Your wife?
I'm doing home care.
Brokerage, construction.
Are most people on Medicaid, SNAP, EBT?
I don't know. I can't speak for other people.
What about you?
I'm not going to tell about myself.
The one thing I am curious about though is the welfare use. Are you on welfare?
No. The Jewish people, just from Curious Joel, their taxes covers everything that we take back. They pay a lot of property tax.
Do you know anyone on welfare here?
I won't comment on that question.
Come on.
No.
Why not?
No.
What do you guys do for work here? You guys have like businesses, work a job, study Torah?
I have a job.
What do you do?
I'm in sales.
What do you sell?
Food.
Okay. What food do you sell?
Chocolates.
What? I feel like I'm getting bamboozled right here. Excuse me. You guys take EBT?
We do.
What percentage of people would you say use EBT for their groceries here?
100%.
100%? What percentage would you say?
35%.
A little bit difficult to conclude what to take away from that. Let's pop in here and say shalom. Synagogue? Okay. Lots of people praying. I'm not sure the schedule exactly, but 9 o'clock sharp, they're not at work. Question for you. What do most men do for work here? Can you give me some ideas?
Oh.
I'm just asking Hasidic Jews out here. What do you mean? Do people here survive off of welfare? BT?
Like all of the communities, you have 8 kids. You can also get benefits.
It's 2:59. Why aren't people at work?
These are all teenagers.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
You gotta wonder what these people do for employment. So if you want to talk about Sharia law and people living in a theocratic ethnic enclave, look no further. Curious Joel is an example of only Jews living here, and a lot of them are tapping into welfare benefits.
Y'all, we've been talking about that here. We've been talking about that. We've been talking about that, and I'm glad to see that at least someone went up, and that's just one community. And boy, oh boy, to see the reactions of these people, it's almost like I'll tell you what, I don't have it in front of me. Maybe I'll post it on the community page later on. They literally, remember I told you all a while back that, when they want to communicate to their people, they always put it in Yiddish or Hebrew or whatever. They put it in Yiddish. And they literally have this warning poster that they're passing out right now. They're saying, do not talk to anybody that comes here and ask you questions. If they ask you questions, do not talk to them. They are trying to trick you. Literally, they were putting this stuff out. And they try to deplatform them, the whole rigmarole, the same thing. But like I said, we're going to have that conversation. Let's have the full conversation, but they don't want to talk about that. But anyway. So, but that was a big conversation. What was going on in the Somalian communities up in Minnesota. Then all of a sudden, this lady, the story comes out. A lady gets shot by the ICE officers, and it also came out too that ICE is partnering with Mossad. They actually are partnering. They're getting part of their training from Mossad. Everything is full circle, y'all. Everything is full circle. Literally everything is full circle, man. And so I am not gonna do no analysts where I'm like, okay, let's stop the video here. Let's zoom in. And you ain't getting that from me. You ain't getting that from me. I mean, everybody's got an opinion on what should or should not be done and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to bring people up to speed, at least of this story, in case you don't know. But we'll just read it here real quick here, and this kind of gives us an overview. Renee Good, the woman who was shot and killed by an ICE officer in Minneapolis last week, was found with up to 4 gunshot wounds, according to newly released records from first responders. The documents released by the Minneapolis Fire Department's late Thursday to Yahoo includes 911 call transcripts and police and fire department incident reports. Calls to 911 began at 9:38 a.m. on January the 7th, the records show. When paramedics arrived at 9:42 a.m., the 37-year-old mother of 3 was unresponsive in the driver's seat of her SUV with blood on her face and torso, according to the fire department, blah, blah, so forth and so on. You know, of course, people getting shot and killed. Nobody likes to hear that at all. But the debate and argument was she trying to get away, or was she using her car as a weapon to run over the cops? You know, that's the big discussion, and it's going to continue to be a big one. But when this story happened, immediately the whole Minneapolis, the Somalian story just fell off the map. Ain't nobody really talking about that. Like immediately. So I knew right then, I was like, okay, it's just a play act or whatever. It's very interesting how that immediately fell off the map. Immediately. And then the next thing I know, they're doing all these protests and all of this stuff and saying how they, you know, oh my God, you know, how can this happen in our country? And, you know, these ICE officers now, and they are trying so hard. They are, I said Mossad, hearing IDF working with, it's IDF and Mossad. That's right. I've heard IDF training, and I also heard Mossad training too. Okay. But thanks for reminding me of that. Yeah, it's IDF too. But all these protests all over the place, and they're trying so hard, y'all, to get black people involved, to try to get black people, and they're still trying to spook black people. They came for her. They're going to come for you next. ICE is coming for you next. Be afraid. Now, there was a story that did come out where there was a case where it was a black family. This black American family. ICE was doing their thing or whatever, and the black family, they were telling them, hey, listen, I'm legal, I'm here. And they was like, we don't care, you know, and basically, I think they threw like a smoke grenade or something in the car or whatever. It was children in there and all of that stuff, right? And so all it takes is one story like that, and they're like, see, this is what's going to happen to every black person now. You know, and so, you know, but they are begging for black people to get involved in this. Now, I'm going to go back to what I said before. When the ghost story that ICE is going to start going after black Americans is just that. It's a ghost story, because they said they're coming after you. Okay, where are they going to deport black Americans to? Where they going to send us? Where they going to send us? If they're going to deport you, that means they're going to send you to a country. They're going to send you to your country of origin. Well, for us, our country of origin is here. You understand what I'm saying? Now, am I saying that we're not going to get to a place where ICE agents are going to start becoming more aggressive and indiscriminately going after different people? That's very well possible. I think this is a setup for that. But to try to make this that somehow they're just exclusively going to be targeting black people next just because, there's no case for that. There's no case for that. But I will say, and I know I'm saying it sounds like I'm talking out both sides of my mouth. Maybe I am to a degree here. But I will say this. Just make sure, and most people do anyway, just make sure you have your stuff with you. So, you know, your driver's license, your basic stuff. I ain't walking around with my passport. I'm not doing all of that. You know, I'm not going to sit up here and say, well, make sure you walk in with your passport, your driver's license, and your last cable bill. I'm not doing that. I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. And my license should be suffice enough. That's what I walk around with all the time. That's it. But no, I wouldn't do that. But just, you know, you go out. If you're driving, make sure you got your license. I mean, duh, you should have that anyway. But just make sure, you got your paperwork, you got your basic license. Just make sure you got it. That's it. But I'm not going to be out here like a lot of these people out here trying to scare folks into this nonsensical, frenzy that they're coming after black people next, because they're coming after like someone like a Stephen A, who I don't really listen to, but apparently Stephen A. Smith had an opinion where he felt that the cops were in the right. Again, I didn't watch the whole video, so I don't really have no say in that. I'm keeping myself out of that, right? His opinion was he believed that the cops were in the right. Now, all of a sudden, all these black female talking heads, like people that got podcasts or in the mainstream media, they all been targeting them. So it's been really interesting to sit back and watch all these boule types going after him because of his opinion on this Nicole Good individual. And I said, isn't this something? Isn't this something? How they always find a way to center white people on this stuff. This ain't got nothing to do. This whole ICE situation is about illegal immigrants, people who've entered into this country illegally. That's what this whole ICE thing is about. But somehow now all of a sudden you got black folks that are getting all worked up. Like you saw the guy that the director of Sinners, in Black Panther and all that, he wearing a button and he's like getting down to the point of tears over this Nicole Good person. Well, let me close out with this, because this is something I actually posted over on our community page here. And like I said, let me just close out with this. I would not play this video, but if you feel like watching it, that's on you. But I actually saw a clip of the video where this man was literally beating up this little black boy, beating him up. I was surprised that it was on social media. They're starting to block it now, but I actually saw it. You can still see it. He was literally beating up this child, black child, and they just happened to catch it on, those doorbell, cameras. Here's another story. Darika Moore, 24, has been arrested in Mississippi after he allegedly went on a killing spree, which left 6 people dead, including family members, a pastor and his brother, and 7-year-old Mickey Leah Guinness. Hope I'm saying her name right. Yeah, I actually mentioned this story recently. Here's another one. Florida mother arrested after drowning her 7-month daughter in Gainesville. Tierra Scott Franklin, 23, is charged with first-degree premeditated murder in connection with the death of her whatever-month-old or 7-month daughter. Here's another story. Mayor of Riverview, Missouri, Mike Cornell, arrested on 9 felony charges for blank crimes and possession of child. You know what? It's always the children. Here's another one. I talked about this one briefly too. This guy just randomly decided to end the life of a 14-year-old boy. I think he was like on a scooter. He was on a bike or something like that and decided to, I think he stabbed him. Here's another one. A daycare worker suffocated not 1, 2 babies. 2 babies. Here's another one. This 15-year-old boy, he was arrested after shooting his father in the head while he was slept. There was another story I forgot to mention in there too. It was another case where a child got angry because their PlayStation or whatever their game console was taken away, and child just ended their life. All of these people are black folks. Now, when I mention these stories, a lot of times, particularly to black folks, the first thing they want to bring up is, well, find some kind of way to delineate. They'll say, well, they were tethers. Yeah, they were tethers. They don't belong here. They were immigrants and all of that stuff. I'm only bringing it up because this stuff does happen. These fools that get out here and want to make a big scene out of, again, we don't like hearing about people lives being abruptly ended, like in this case with Nicole Good. But I'm gonna be honest with you. My concern is more towards the in-house stuff. You understand what I'm saying? That's where my concerns are. Is the in-house stuff. I was thinking today, I said, my kids are grown now. Our kids are grown now, so they're adults. But I said, man, see, I grew up in a time where, you can go to your cousin's house or your uncle and your auntie's house or whatever. And depending on who it was, for the most part, it was relatively safe. There was, don't get it twisted, there was stuff going on even back in my time. But, it's even worse now. Let's just put it that way. For a lot of these children, some of these uncles, I don't care how old they are. Come over here and sit on my lap, girl. Or come over here, bro. Come over here. Come in my tool shop. I want to show you something. Stuff be happening all the time. And I said, man, I am so glad that I don't have small children now. Because, see, I would have been done jacked somebody up and crucified them myself. And did the whole, look, I would have done the whole scene. Did the whole carry-on cross. Nailed them and do the whole thing. I would took them through the whole thing. And then turned it upside down on top of that. I don't play that. I don't play that stuff. When you mess around with children, there is no mercy. There ain't nothing else to talk about after that. Oh, you messing with children? Oh, nah, get out of here, man. Ain't no. Go get help. My hope and prayer is that you do get help. You get some counseling or whatever. But for the now, you need to be put away. You need to be set aside somewhere. You don't need to be in the main public area. But when you got to understand, but when you separate them, you actually make things worse. Well, my concern is for the children, because now this individual just created a victim. So let's take care of the victim first. If this person, who more than likely people who engage in this kind of stuff, something happened to them as children a lot of times, they need to get help, but they are at an extreme public risk and they need to be away. They need to be out of the public. And if they refuse it, then send them on to the next dimension. Just send them on to the next dimension. I'm all for that. Because you don't, messing with children, that's it. And it's just what we see today. It's becoming more and more normalized. So my concern really is for that. So I just went through a whole list. This just happened within the first few weeks of this year. We just started in 2026. There's one story I think that happened last month, but all of the other stories I sent to you, they all happened within these first few weeks of January. And we're supposed to just, but Nicole Good, I'm gonna wear a button on that one. I'm gonna shed some tears on the ICE agent. Oh God, the ICE are coming after us. Meanwhile, you got all these crazy behind people doing stuff to our children, and nobody sheds a tear over that. That's why we try to do our best here on this platform. We want to address these things like mental health and wellness and all of that kind of stuff. We do the best we can. We're not licensed, and we'll tell you that up front, but we're just here to kind of remind you, listen, if you need help, get the help you need, regardless of what it is. Get the help you need. Let's get our bodies and our minds back in order. Let's start doing the right things. Let's start putting our stuff, setting our stuff right. You know what I'm saying? And separating ourselves from people who are constantly pulling us into crazy town. I don't want to be a resident of crazy town anymore in 2026. I don't know about you. So anyway, that's it. Let me see what else we got here. Let me see here. I'm gonna pull up some more of your comments here. Todd said, well, you can't run $1 billion scam without some help. Right. He's talking about, we were talking about the Hasidic community there. Here's another one, just maintaining the divide between black women and men. Yep. Sure right. Sure right. Here's another one. People move like drones, reacting to everything they see instead of forming opinions on their own. It's very true. Very, very true. Another one here. Let's see. That's Tariq Nasheed blaming everything on immigrants instead of holding everybody accountable for their actions. And that's a whole cottage industry that he has created. And, where everything gets, black people, black Americans, we don't do it, that kind of thing, that kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, we do have a whole lot of crazy people, and it's impacting our children, and we need to focus on that. And like I said in my post earlier today, this right here, when I'm talking about these children that are being at risk, that should be the utmost priority conversation taking place on any Black social media platform. Above anything else, before we even talk about reparations, we need to prioritize our children first. If we're not prioritizing our children and their health and their welfare and their protection, if we're not doing that, instead you want to talk about ways you can get the bag via reparations, get out of my face. Don't even talk to me. Don't even talk to me. Do not even talk to me. We have nothing to talk about. If you can get all up with all of this fire in your chest about reparations, but I can go through story after story after story of how these children in our own backyard are being terrorized, and you ain't got nothing to say on that, get away from me. Just get away from me. I have nothing to say. And sometimes victims turn into, yeah, you're right. Exactly. It's a cycle. So yeah, we need to prioritize our children and even our elders too. Don't leave out the elders, because elders, they are part of the vulnerable as well within our own communities. And we got to make sure that they're being taken care of too. So folks, listen, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you got something out of this. The purpose of this platform is to challenge you, to challenge your thinking, to think outside of the box, so to speak, and to realize and to remind you that, yes, we are living in a construct, but do not allow this construct to define who you are, okay? Because who we really are is much bigger than any book or any construct, okay? Well, that's all I have. Thank you so much for tuning in. You guys take care, and I'll see you again in the next video. Take care now.